Just before the next programme, a reminder that next week sees the start of a new series of Last of the Summer Wine, featuring Cleggy, Camo, Foggy and Laura Batty, stuck on the moors in a bath for the next 4 months, hopefully.
Thank you. Hello, hi there, and welcome to the show marking 5 years of the coalition government. Oh, heaven, 5 years already. I mean, doesn't time fly when you're employing yourself? But of course, no one voted for the coalition. The British public didn't know what we wanted, we didn't understand what we were being offered, and didn't get what we asked for. It was the political equivalent of Nando's.
Have you been involved in a coalition that wasn't your fault?
Did you vote for someone only to find yourself governed by someone else altogether? Perhaps like me, you found yourself in an abusive or dysfunctional relationship.
Have you suffered stress at work, leaving you with difficulty eating or remembering names or faces or whole conference speeches? I have.
Maybe you, or someone like you, has had an urge to end a long-term relationship, be on your own and bark at strangers. Maybe you're turned off politics altogether and find yourself attracted to unsuitable partners with boundless ambitions and uncontrollable hair.
If you've been affected by any of the issues arising from this government, you may be entitled to compensation. Mr. C from Clacton walked away with over 21,000 votes. Mr. R from Rochester claimed a majority of nearly 3,000. Mrs. S from Glasgow could win up to 40 seats and 5 years' supply of Barnett formula. Get your claim in now. Offer closes May 7th.
But none of the leaders had a mandate. Cameron hasn't got a mandate, Clegg hasn't got a mandate. The only one with a mandate was William Hague, who allegedly had 2 mandates.
But absolutely nothing happened on either of them. But the coalition was an unprecedented act of cooperation between 2 parties determined to turn things around.
You know, we had to show that things could be done differently. You know, not just the old thing about the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. We could actually have both. So for 5 years, the deal was simple. The Conservatives got to enact their austerity measures, restructure the NHS, overhaul the benefit system, introduce the bedroom tax, and raise tuition fees in further education. And for their part, the Lib Dems got to say, "Are you sure?"
I think, you know, like all of these things, it started off a bit of a slow burn. We'd obviously come across each other at work, but it wasn't until the spring of 2010 that the penny dropped, and I realised that there was something there. We had a lot in common, we had similar views on things. And then it sort of hit me, and I suddenly realised that without him, I couldn't be who I wanted to be. I couldn't do what I wanted to do. And I think that, more than anything, made me realise that we had to be together. You know, it was the right thing to do. I think what's important is the fact that we're still together for the sake of the country. And I think a country needs 2 leaders. I think that's important. At least for the first 5 years. Then he can fuck right off.
Heroes of the coalition, Nick Clegg. Bravely voted to raise university tuition fees despite pledging not to before the election. Credited as the single figure most responsible for reducing his party's number of seats at the next election to single figures.
The coalition agreement specifically stated that if they didn't like the policy, Lib Dems could abstain. It was there in the coalition agreement. George Osborne even said to him, "I wouldn't do it if I were you." Obviously, that's what got Clegg. He thought, oh, right, I'll do it. Genius tactics by the Tories. Reverse psychology. It's George Osborne using techniques straight out of the Michael Howard playbook. I wouldn't do that if I were you. But then I'm a Conservative. You're a Liberal Democrat. You can do anything. But you won't. So the Lib Dems even failed to vote against the bedroom tax. Well, I think, to be fair to Nick, it's about choices. We can either tax rich people in their mansions or poor people who happen to have a spare room. And I think we should be on the side of the vulnerable. I mean, you look at the Earl of Cardigan. Yeah. He could lose a £10 million house through no fault of his own. David Brudenell Bruce, by the way, lovely chap, went to the same school. We should be foursquare behind people like that and not these people who happen to have a spare room that they only use when their daughter comes out of dialysis. When politicians cooperate like that, you sometimes think they've shuffled the pack around and they've just ended up in the wrong party. If this was football, we'd have a transfer window. Oh, yes, indeed, very much so, I fancy. Last-minute horse trading on all sides as the window closes. Labour still keen to offload Ed Miliband. May throw in Baroness Thornbury as a sweetener. Tories still looking to make that loan of Dally Alexander permanent. Vince Cable still trying to agree personal terms with himself. Ken Clark moving to the Lib Dems, subject to a medical. Good luck with that one, Ken. And, oh, well, I never. Barcelona have come in with a last-minute offer for Eric Pickles. But if all the politicians have given up ideology and become managers, why don't we just go for a foreign manager?
Angela Merkel, three-time Bundes champion, unbeaten in Europe since 2005, right-side midfielder that can link up with left. Barack Obama, America's Major League MVP since 2008, left-side player, big match temperament, contract up next year, looking to move. Recep Erdogan, attacking Turkish president, plays wide on the right, uncompromising, hard in the tackle, currently banned from Europe. Silvio Berlusconi, the Italian stallion, highly experienced with younger players, out of contract, available on a free under the Bosman ruling, pass completion 100%.
But to be fair, it's actually not true to say all parties are the same. Of course, there are differences. Labour want to go back to 1948. The Tories want to take spending back to the 1930s. UKIP want to take us back to 1065. No, the year before, I'm afraid, it all went tits up. William the Conqueror came over here, dare I say it, open-door immigration policy, and what happens? Thousands of years later, we're all speaking French. Except for my wife, of course, she's German.
Choosing the right party giving you a headache? You need new Manifesto Plus. Manifesto Plus, with its unique ideology-free formula, conquers the pain of who to vote for by removing even the most stubborn beliefs, leaving you free to elect almost anyone. Manifesto Plus, recommended by all major political parties and Labour.
HS2, the high-speed rail link. London to Birmingham in an hour and 20 minutes. Surely that's a vision worth rallying round. I mean, how many people are standing, even now, in Euston Station, saying to themselves, I don't have to be here, queuing outside this food bank. I could be, even as we speak, in a completely different world. Birmingham. I know it sounds like a dream, but it could be a reality if only I could get there 32 minutes quicker than I can now. HS2 is aspirational. So yes, £50 million will buy a lot of equipment for the NHS. But what's aspirational about a Zimmer frame?
So when it comes to the debate, maybe they'll just have to change to a new format altogether. Oh, so day 3 of the Bush Tucker Challenge. And Natalie and Nicola have got to get back to camp with 3 stars or the rest of the camp mates are going to have to eat Ed Miliband. I'd rather have the kangaroo anus. I thought you were going to say that. Of course, it all makes the choices much more complicated, unpredictable. So the leaders try to scare you off. Now, if you go to bed with Nigel Farage, you wake up with Ed Miliband. That's not quite true. If you go to bed with Nigel Farage, you're lucky to wake up at all. So where do Labour fit into all this? To examine this and other issues, will you welcome one of the best political comedians in the country today? Please welcome Matt Forde.
Thank you. Ed Miliband may well end up leading a different coalition after the election and he's trying a number of different things to make himself more popular. Politicians are always accused of not answering questions, and Ed's developed a new tactic where he always answers the questions, they're just not the ones he's been asked. You'll see him do this in interviews. Nick Robinson could say, Mr Miliband, you won't tell us until after the election at which rate you'd set the new mansion tax. What are you trying to hide from us? And he'll just go, Look, if you're asking me, do I have a plan for the economy, then the answer's yes. It's amazing, he's actually quite good at it, but he must be murdered to live with, though. Ed, did you pick up the quinoa? Look, if you're asking me, do I care about the nutrition of our family, then I'll simply say to you, of course I do. Apparently Ed is even now trying to subtly change the way he sounds. You'll notice this if you see him on TV. But we've been here before with leaders of the opposition. William Hague was mocked for years and is now one of our most popular politicians, so there's hope. Well, I've got a small theory about how Hague became more popular, and I think it is partly because he subtly changed the way that he spoke. When he was Tory leader from 1997 to 2001, he talked at the top end of his vocal range. And a lack of authority in his voice underlined a lack of authority in his leadership. He lost the election. He shaved all his hair off, came back as Foreign Secretary, and then started talking at the bottom end of his vocal range. And everyone was like, whoa, baby-grown balls. I would warn Ed against doing that specific tactic, though, because, you know, if Ed Miliband speaks too deep, you know, he just sounds like a Walkman whose batteries have run out. And that's not a good noise. He's got one trait as a speaker that's quite endearing. He's actually quite camp, and you'll notice this in his conference speeches, where he goes, come on, conference, please. I actually quite like him when he does that. I think he should do more of that. By the time the election comes round, he should go full camp. I want to see him at rallies going, so, me and a vet, like, totally went door knocking. Yeah. Yeah. There was one guy, answered the door wearing a towel. I was like, hello. Yeah. I was like, where have you been? He said, I've just got back off holiday. I said, tell me everything.
Matt Forde, ladies and gentlemen. But he's right. He's got quite a bit of ground to make up because to some people, Ed Miliband, he's so toxic. They're frightened to go near him. You know, they think they'll catch something. You know, Ebola. Matt, clearly you spend, like I do, far too much time watching Ed Miliband. Did you watch the conference speech?
I did, sadly, yes.
It was extraordinary, wasn't it? I mean, all that stuff about, you know, meeting the public. I met a woman the other day. Her name was Lola. She was a showgirl. Do they meet people like that?
I don't think so. I mean, one of the things that stuck with me from that conference speech when he said, I met a woman in a park, and do you know what she said to me? She said, my generation is falling down a black hole. What sort of parks is he hanging around in?
But you watch him in the House of Commons. He's got a particular technique, hasn't he?
He has, yeah. It's fascinating to watch. I think he's trying to be very serious. He's got two personas that you see at Prime Minister's Question Time. And the first one, on his first question, is ultra-mature schoolboy. The sort of schoolboy that when the classroom is chaos and the rest of us normal folk were having fun, he's the sort of kid that would have sat there and gone, oh, sorry about this, sir. Some people don't care about their education. Oh, come on, Miliband, have a bit of fun, mate. And he wouldn't get involved. That lasts about 5 seconds until the Tories start giving him any hell, or he gets an ad-lib, and then he turns into the most excited kid in the world. The kid who's only ever had the answer once, and this is the one time. Well, it's good to see the Education Secretary. Sat on the naughty step, Mr. Speaker. Yeah, I never thought of it myself. I just said it. Yeah. I said it.
And you've got that blinking thing. He's got strange things.
Well, this is very peculiar, and it's one of the things where once you notice him doing this, it's really fun to watch him, because otherwise it's dreadful. So, he started closing his eyes too early at the end of sentences. So he does it in conference speeches. Go, you know, the Tories just don't understand. We're in the middle of a cost of living crisis. Where the hell is he going? Hey, wake up, mate. It's like he's just sort of drifting off, just going, find a happy place, find a happy place.
We've actually looked into this. We did a little bit of scientific research, and we've actually managed to find that this is the image of what he's actually seeing when his eyes are closed. 200 David Milibands. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt Forde.
So, hooray, I finally got a job. It's brilliant. It's one of those new 0 hours contract jobs, which I know is weird. It makes it sound like it doesn't exist, but it definitely does. And if I don't go in, I get sacked. But what it means is, it's not complicated. Just imagine that you were buying a house, and oh my God, how did you manage that? Did your parents die? But you're buying this house, and it's a 0 bricks house, so they just can't guarantee there will be any walls there. But some days there might be, and so that's great. I mean, for me, I'm just pleased to be on the employment ladder, even if it doesn't have any rungs. What I really love about a 0 hours contract job is that it's actually really flexible. So, for instance, if I go in and the bar's not very busy, they can just send me home without pay, which is amazing. So it means that I've got the whole afternoon to pawn my belongings. And I think, for me, what I prefer about this is I guess it's the independence. I'm going to have to stand on my own 2 feet. So, for instance, if I do something wrong, like get pregnant, then it used to be that there was laws to protect me and no one would be able to fire me, bloody Europe. But now what's fantastic is that they can just never, ever give me a shift ever again until I die of malnutrition. Gotta stay skinny, ladies. But what's better about it is that it does protect companies. What people don't really understand is actually companies need to be protected, because like companies have feelings too. Sorry, not feelings, money. Companies have money, and I really think that it's really important that that's respected, you know, because I believe in the free market. I just think that the markets should be allowed to be free. Like, just hopefully in the future, when humanity's been extinguished, markets will just be running across the hills, like laughing and choking on the pollution that they've created. I mean, this will be like 2070, so I won't be here, but I will be halfway through paying off my student loan.
Heroes of the Coalition, Ian Duncan Smith. Former Tory leader whose reform of the benefit system has been so successful that his department is now conducting 60 inquiries into the deaths of claimants under the new scheme.
Hang on, just a minute here. You're being very unreasonable. I think, look, I think one man's death, or one woman's, let's not discriminate, one man's death is another man's welfare saving. And I think, I think this is a critical point. You know, some of these people have actually taken their own lives, and you can't do much more than that for your country's economy. No, you really can't. I mean, when it comes to welfare, you've got to have a system of stick and carrot. You know? So I think we hit them with the stick, and then we hit them with the carrot.
David Laws, whose gallant surrender after 3 weeks kept the flame of scandal alive for a grateful nation. Andy Coulson, who laid down his life so Rebecca Brooks might live. Maria Miller, whose heroic 32-second apology did so much to restore our distrust in politics. Andrew Mitchell, who sacrificed so much for so little during the 2012-14 Plebgate Wars. Age shall not weary them, nor the voters condemn. We shall remember them, except Maria Miller.
What's striking, though, is how petty the resignations were. Now, I mean, most of them went pretty quickly, particularly Chris Huhne, who was doing nearly 70 when he was caught speeding, and blamed his wife. She's now having nothing to do with him, and she's got a point. Well, she's got 3 points, actually. But these are the distractions from politics. In Roman times, the population had their mind taken off things by bread and circuses.
Ed has gone for a date and walnut, but he's forgotten the recipe and baked his cake without notes. As a result, he's missed out 2 key ingredients, the dates and the walnuts. Will Paul notice?
There's nothing there. You've missed out all the bits people are interested in.
Next is Nick, who's gone for a baked Alaska and ended up making a meat pie.
What happened here? You baked a completely different one from the one you said you were going to bake. It's appalling.
Now it's David's bake. He's not made a cake, but outsourced the whole process to the private sector.
And there's Mr. Kickering. Actually, not that bad. But what you've done, you've ended up tied into a 20-year contract at 16.5% to pay back, which means each cake actually costs £780 to buy.
Finally, it's Nigel's showstopper. Controversially, Nigel hasn't baked a cake, but has served up a pint of London Pride and a packet of fags.
I love that. People often ask me, how can you juggle three things at once? Run as the candidate in Uxbridge, write books and columns, and what was the third thing? Oh, golly. I'll get back to you. Mayor! That was it. Mayor of London. The mayor. Mayor Cooper. Mayor Maximo Cooper. People say to me, Bojo, have you lost your mojo? I say, Nojo. And to those of you who say I don't take politics seriously, I say simply this. Right. Which way is Uxbridge? Right. What's next?
So let's explore that a little bit more. What is it that we see in these people? Nick Robinson again. Well, Hugh, as you look at the political world, as I do, one thing is increasingly clear. And it's this, Hugh. Music maestro, please. What you know matters less than the volume with which what you don't know is expressed. Content, Hugh, has never been less important. So, you've just simply got to be loud.
Girl, you've got to learn to stand up and stick out from the crowd. A little less flash, a lot more peel. A little less fact, a lot more feel. A little less brains, a lot more hair. A little less head, a lot more derriere.
Time to play. Lucasfilm. Nigel, in the book Noddy Goes to Town, who is responsible for the disappearance of Noddy's car?
A Romanian crime wave.
David, in the 2011 Rihanna song We Found Love in a Hopeless Place, to which town was she referring?
Wolverhampton.
I'll give you that. Nick, Smells Like Teen Spirit was a hit for which band?
Nirvana.
Correct. Ed, name one thing that you have that your brother David doesn't.
My nose job.
Nigel, in the film Rambo, what is the character Rambo's full name?
Paddy Ashdown.
John Rambo. David, Phil Spencer and Kirsty Allsop present which television programme?
Location, location, location.
Correct. Nick, which TV character uses the phrase, a glass of white wine for the lady?
Al Murray.
Correct. Ed, what was the name of Oasis' 1995 hit album?
What's my story?
What's the story? Nigel, in the song Rotterdam by the Beautiful South, which other towns do they mention?
Telford and Aylesbury and Kettering and Buxton and Harrogate.
Liverpool and Rome. David, in rhyming slang, if we refer to someone as a Burke, what word are we calling them?
Tristram Hunt.
Actually, it's something else that rhymes with Hunt, but as this is a family show, we'll give you that. Ed, in the Frank Sinatra song, which town was so great they named it twice?
Liverpool.
So, at the end of that round, you've scored a pathetic nothing. Who are you going to vote off? Whose dreams are you going to destroy? Who will be the weakest link?
Well, you know when you've been done for speeding, they give you the option. You can either have the 3 points on your licence, or you go to a course on, I don't know, driving better or something, or highway code. No-brainer, really. So they've got this same thing, sort of the same thing for bankers. I mean, you can either be brought up to court, or you go on this course, the greed awareness course, greed management course. Last Friday, me and two other guys, both investment bankers, I didn't know them, We went down to the Department of Business and Skills, poxy little office at the back. So half time we go out for a fag, and this bloke, one of the other guys on the course, he tells me about this stroke he pulled, where he made 600k in about a minute and a half, front-running the New York flash crash back in 2010. Eh? Hairy, ooh, yeah. Not entirely kosher, but nice, very nice. Well, at least I learned something on this course.
Look, I want to stick up for the banks. You know, they get it in the neck over bonuses. People complain that they've paid out almost 4 times more in bonuses than they have in tax under the coalition. But I think we're forgetting something. And that's the amount these banks, RBS, Barclays, Lloyds, HSBC, are paying us and the American government in fines almost every day. I mean, these things add up. Something like, 36 billion into our economies. And that is down to a handful of dedicated people who are putting in the hard work, rigging interest rates, manipulating LIBOR, mis-selling PPI, boosting our economy every day. I think we should celebrate that. And not just the banks. I mean, look at our black economy. Now one of the most successful in Europe. I mean, so successful, we've just been hit with a bill for £1.7 billion from the EU. Now, I'm not pretending that that's not a lot of money. You know, the last time I saw a cheque for 1.7 billion, it fell out of a card on my 18th birthday. But look, that's all down to the success of our black economy. The prostitutes, the drug dealers, the people who work day in, night in, night out, providing people with the things they need at a price that they can afford.
We all know the system doesn't work, but we sort of pretend that it does. The politicians know it doesn't work. We know that they know it doesn't work. It's like the emperor's clothes. See what we've done, him and me both. Look at the jobs, the cuts, the growth. Because we're all in the boat together, we go together, we vote together. We're all of us in the all together. We're all together as naked as the country's ever been. And one election every 5 years is looking incredibly old-fashioned, especially now when most politics takes place online and in social media. I mean, that would be great, wouldn't it? You wouldn't have to change your MP. You could just unfriend him on Facebook. In fact, we could do without elections altogether. Just have an app on your phone. Every time we feel like a change of government, you go to the app. Have a different government every 2 or 3 days. Just think of the fun we could have. Right, Welsh nationalists in charge today, so everybody has to speak Welsh, with subtitles for the very stupid. 2 days later, in complete contrast, Labour, making difficult decisions to control spending. Lib Dem days, when they don't make any decisions at all. UKIP, we wear pyjamas all day. The SNP, who abolished Trident as a deterrent and have bagpipe recitals instead. And Sinn Féin, who just don't turn up. Of course, it would mean a whole new lease of life for the Queen, with new Prime Ministers to welcome into office every 5 minutes. David Cameron, window number 9, please. Ed Miliband, window number 3. George Galloway, do me a favour. But you see, in Parliament, it'd be like musical chairs. So all the parties get to shout at each other, swap policies, make a lot of noise, until the Speaker shouts, "Order!" And they all have to find somewhere to sit and end up next to someone they loathe. Oh, no, hang on. We've got that already.
Celebrate good times, come on. It's a coalition. It's a coalition. Two parties getting on right here. Cooperation to last at least 5 years.